So this week I wanted to talk briefly about NGO sector in South Sudan, because there are many people who believe that the sector is dominated by ethnic groups in the Equatoria. So as some people also say that the government jobs are dominated by Jiang and the Nuer people. I don't have the statistics, so we go by what people say. We also have this idea that people who control the sector, the NGO sector, do not want other tribes to come in. So they would say, okay, they say you control the government job, so this is our sector we control. That's the sentiment people have. And I have one young woman who told me that she had that sense when she applied. She later found a job in Juba with an NGO, but she had a feeling that one of the panel members who was from the Equatoria had this negative attitude towards her, and there were other non-South Sudanese on the panel. So she ended up getting the job. But so that's a feeling people have. So, but is the sector dominated by the Equatoria? I don't know, because I don't have the statistics. So if there's someone who has done the study, let us know. Now, in Eastern Equatoria, there was a case of some youth in Torit saying that the NGOs should hire the youth from the area. So if NGOs that operate in the area need to be safe, then they should hire people from the area. That's also an issue in other areas in South Sudan, not only in Eastern Equatoria. We've also seen this in Upper Nile. We've seen this in Unity State. We've seen this in Jonglei State. So the youth are saying, if you want to operate in our area, then we are the people to be hired. The issue of Equatorians dominating the sector is a big deal. There's this gentleman, he's a well-known youth activist, and he's also a youth leader. Wally Michael posted something on his Facebook account, and people responded as always. Some people accusing him of being a tribalist, of hiding his tribalism within his activism. I saw that on Twitter. There was a lot of discourse back and forth. So I looked at what he wrote, and I realized I don't think he was tribalist. There's some things he could have said in a different way, but I don't think he was tribalist. So he said that NGO sector is not like the government sector. You don't go by favoritism. You go by qualification. You go by merit. You go through HR channel. You get called. You interviewed by a panel. If you qualify, answer questions properly, you get hired. So you don't have to put big names like ministers, like director generals or generals, military generals. So you don't fill your resume with big names so that you get respected. And he said, no, that doesn't apply in the NGO sector. And I agree with him. I agree that most of these NGOs are led by Westerners who are used to a merit-based. It's not all the time. Sometimes they cut corners, but they don't cut corners in the way government positions are given, where you have a friend you went to school with, you have your brother, your uncle, people from your clan or your tribe. They can help you get a job. That's not always the case in the NGO sector, so I agree with him. But one of the challenge, though, I had with what he said is that he's a well-known figure now. And when you're a well-known figure, people pay attention to what you say. And you don't have the luxury to sort of say, this is the fact, take it or leave it. You don't have that luxury if you are an activist, because the moment you say that, people who want to misconstrue, people who want to use your word for their own agenda will use it. So not everyone who is going to read whatever you wrote, not everyone is going to be faithful to the text. They want to use it. They will talk to their friends and they will use it. So people will say, this is what Wani said, when exactly it's not what he said. So as an activist, as a prominent figure, you have to be careful how you say things. For example, you cannot say, catch feelings at your own risk, because you're an activist. You speak for everyone. So people take those things. And I wanted to end with what postmodernist scholars or post-structural scholars say about the author and the text. So Ronald Barthes was a French literary theorist. He wrote an essay in 1967 called The Death of the Author. So basically, postmodern scholars would say they go with the text. They would say, okay, we don't care about the intention of the author. Care about the text. The text speaks to you. The text is independent of the author. You wrote it. We'll go with what the text says, not what you meant. Now, there's some problems with that. There's some problems with that because traditionally people will look at the cultural background of the author, his family background, his education, what he went through as a child, and they say this inform how they write. Postmodern scholars will say, okay, no, screw that. The text is there. Now, I'm not saying that should apply in most cases with what we write. But what I'm saying is, when you write, know that people will misconstrue your text. Don't be surprised when people say, okay, this is what he said, and say, no, that's not what I said. Because the text can be used for different purposes by people. So one thing you can do is be faithful as much, or be clear as much as possible in what you write. But always remember, people will misconstrue what you write all the time. So, and if you are someone who works with the community, someone who works in social justice issues, human rights issues, then always know that things to do with identity are very sentimental. People react with visceral intensity when it comes to these things. So when someone sees that Kwitagarang is trying to defend Jiang in some elements, then they'll just say he's being a tribalist. If Wani is saying something that favors at that instant, favoring Equatorians, they'll say, oh, yes, he's just Equatorian, so he's a tribalist. That's a mindset people have, but that's not always true. So if Wani says something that is true, but that statement happens to be supporting Equatorians, it doesn't mean he's a tribalist. So, but at the end of the day, if you're a public figure, no, people will misconstrue what you say, so be careful. Because as Barthes say, or post-structuralists say, the text has a life of its own, can be used in different ways. But at the end of the day, what we want is to, as South Sudanese, to develop a sense of understanding where we look at what someone else has said and we try to be as close as much as possible to what they wanted to say as opposed to misconstruing it. So let us not say, oh, this is the truth, screw you. It doesn't help. At the same time, let us develop a sense where we look at the text someone has written and say, okay, this is what I like from the text, this is what I don't like from the text.